Years ago we would be concerned that there'd be an individual that was standing out in front of a bank, and as you would come into the bank, they'd say, I found this $20,000 in a bag, and I'd like you to hold it until I come back. And if you would hold this for me, maybe since I'm going to give you $20,000, you should give me at least $1,000 in cash, and then I'll let you hold this until we find the owner. And unfortunately, the person sometimes would go into the bank, withdraw $1,000 of their money, give the person $1,000 and take a bag, which ultimately only had a 20 and a 20 on both ends of a stack of paper, and would take that. Today, with the advances in technology, which are very, very good things, no matter where we go, no matter how we go, there's always somebody out there trying to get money out of our pockets. They're trying to get to you not only using the old ways, one-on-one, telephone calls, trying to give up your personal information, but they're trying in your computers. Now they're trying on your cell phones. And we've got to be very, very careful. And today it's not only a senior issue, it's an everybody issue, because they're trying to get into everybody's computers and phones and business records. And this past year we had a very tough time with your tax returns. We have over now 700 fraudulent tax returns where our residents went to file their taxes and found out that somebody had already filed in their name. They had already received a tax return of cash, so our resident lost out on the tax return they were supposed to get, and they also created a crime problem. The difficulty for us in law enforcement with that particular fraud is that most of those people are not locally based. They're getting information out of other sources outside of Collier County, and then submitting these online to the IRS from anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, for that matter, to present themselves as one of us. That's a problem. We are finally getting some help from the IRS because while this was occurring, we didn't seem to get a lot of support there, and we as a local organization, even as a county as big as we are, don't have jurisdiction outside of Collier County. So that is one of the big frauds that are being perpetuated. Angela and Jackie are out all the time talking about prevention and fraud safety, personal safety. They're going to continue to do that as long as I'm here, for sure, and make sure that they provide you the different information that can keep you safe. The biggest thing that we are facing, though, and we're facing it not only as a community, we're facing it as a nation, is the diversion of prescription drugs. That's where you're taking actual scripts, actual authorized prescription type medicines, and using them for recreational or non-medical purpose. And you would think, well, isn't that hard to do? You have to get a prescription from a doctor, you have to go buy it from a pharmacy. That would be correct. The problem is when we think about drugs, if we think about the traditional illicit drugs from 20 years ago or 30 years ago, where bales of marijuana were floating up on our shores, where we had cocaine being brought in from Miami in the mid-'80s, that you could see that law enforcement had a very clear and concise responsibility to address. When people are starting to abuse prescription drugs and going out and fabricating medical problems for them, and then linking up with pill mills as opposed to pain clinics or good sound doctors, and we have tremendous doctors in Collier County who support our efforts to thwart the pill mills, it is a problem. And to give you just an example of where the state has gone, in about 2004 and 5, the DEA put together a report on the state of Florida. And they said, we're now identifying the state of Florida as the pill mill state instead of the sunshine state. And everybody said, well, you know, why would you even consider thinking that? And they said, well, there are as many prescriptions per dose, a dose is a pill, as many doses prescribed in the state of Florida for opiate-based drugs, Oxycontin, oxycodone, as there is in the 49 other states put together. Now, you would think that would have livened everybody up and said, okay, you know, I mean, even though we may have more people that are using them, we don't have that many people that are using them. So we went to the state legislature, we tried to get some new laws put in place with regard to prescription drugs because it impacts everybody. It impacts attorneys, doctors, deputies, firefighters. Everybody's getting hooked on prescription drugs. Most of it comes from you're prescribed it for a relatively small injury that you might have had. The problem is people can't get off it. And then that turns into a criminal problem. And then of course our young people see that. They say, you know, it's easier for me to go into my parents' medicine cabinet than it is to go down the street and try and buy an illicit drug. So I'll just go into one of my family members' medicines and start taking pills out of there. So it has become a real problem. And we had put in a lot of requests to enforce and do better with the laws on that. We weren't getting any help, so the DEA put out a revised study about 2 years after their first. And now they had some new statistics, which we were hoping were going to be better. Unfortunately, they were not. 2 years later, they said that we were now dispensing 3 times the amount of doses that the rest of the 49 states together dispense. At that point, everybody began to wake up and say, you know, we have a problem here. We were surrounded by states that had prescription monitoring plans that could be checked to make sure that those people that needed drugs were getting them properly, but so that you couldn't go out and buy 300 Oxycontin on Monday, another 300 on Friday, and then go sell half of them and keep the rest for yourself. We also had people coming in from Kentucky, from Tennessee, from North Carolina, driving to Florida to buy their drugs because we had little control over what was being dispensed other than federal laws. So that became a pretty big interest to us. Very hard to get people off of that, and it is going to continue to be something that we're going to work on for a long time. We're starting with our young people, trying to get them more in the know about what these drugs do and how they can affect you later in life. You know, because a lot of times a particular pill may not necessarily cause a severe medical problem. There are some that do, but most don't. But when you put them all together, they can. And that's what we're trying to let our young people know and get them off of that path. Because today, to get somebody off of that type of drug problem, $1,000 a day, minimum 30 days in a program, on-site program, and you usually have to do it 2 or 3 times. And guess who is paying for all of that? We are, our insurance, because most insurance companies will fund the first 1, 2, or even 3 turns in a rehab facility. That's a lot of money. We can do it much more cost effectively if we can just get people on the right road and do it early on And it will be safer because we are losing in Collier County 50 to 60 people to drug overdoses a year, just here in Collier County. That is not acceptable. As we continue to grow in Collier County, we will get back some of the aspects and elements of crime that we've seen in the past. As we have a lot more people come into the community, 1% of those are going to be criminally oriented. So as our population starts to increase over the next couple of years, we need to look at the burglaries of cars or breaking into cars, because we still have some of that occurring. And most of it is caused because we were up at about 80% of the time we left our cars unlocked. And even though we have a very safe community, everything you can do to thwart somebody from removing something from your car is a help. Because we have people coming in from the East Coast, particularly, that come here just to look and find ways to steal property. The worst part is we left our property in there and didn't lock the car. And what people are looking for is wallets and purses, particularly with credit cards. Because if they can get a credit card and scan the information from the card, within 24 hours, they can have $4,000 on that card in Europe on a new printed card. That's how fast things move. So we continue to watch that. We've actually reduced our unlocked vehicle break-ins down to about 50% from where we were, and thank you to the community for that, to be locking your cars. The other thing is, just don't leave anything in your car that anybody would want, because they actually physically look in the car, and if there's nothing there, they move to the next car. And they really don't even want to break in cars. They pull car doors, and if it's locked, they'll move to one that's open. That's how easy it has become. We've seen a little bit of an increase in some areas of the county, but not throughout, of breaking into homes. One of the things that we saw over the last 3 years is the huge number of foreclosures in Collier County, and that has been a problem. We've had over 12,000 to 15,000 homes foreclosed, turn vacant, become a safety issue, become a problem for breaking in and removing everything you can think of, particularly the copper wiring. Copper wiring right out through the walls of the house, your air conditioning unit with copper in it, anything with copper we've seen people going after. Fortunately, we have a task force. We work with Collier County. They do a terrific job in identifying those homes. We do more patrol of those areas, and we're now starting to get more of those homes sold and people living there, and that is going to help to slow this all down. So we've gone through a pretty tough time with regard to general crime and safety.